Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2C TV, your global news channel. I'm Maya 2C and we are gonna bring you guys the live coverage from the House of Commons in Westminster as the BBC bosses are on a political trial. What is going on here? Everything's falling apart. There we go. Okay. Over the last couple of days, we've had some technical difficulties on this channel. It's not my fault. I'm the victim. But they are on a political trial and we're gonna go live to Parliament as the members of Parliament are grilling the bosses of the BBC. There are also a couple of guests who are speaking right now, but we are waiting for the chair of the BBC, Samir Shah. Samir Shah will be soon joining. Michael Prescott is currently speaking. He's a former editorial advisor to the BBC in terms of the BBC editorial guidelines and standards. He's written a report exposing what's happening inside the organisation. This could be the end of the BBC as we get closer to 2027, which is the deadline for the BBC's lifeline. Now, the Labour government, Keir Starmer, have promised to save the BBC, but we have a live poll in the live chat. I asked you guys, what model do you think? What's the best solution for the BBC? Keep it as it is? Make it a subscription-based model like Netflix, advertising like a normal channel, or sell it to Elon Musk, or just destroy the whole thing. That will be an interesting option. We also have Caroline Daniel, who's a former editorial advisor, who's also on the panel right now, but we are waiting for the chairman of the BBC, Samir Shah. Of course, recently we had a couple of high-profile resignations, the Director General and also the head of BBC News. Both of them resigned in disgrace. A lot of scandals coming out because of the BBC bias against President Trump, against Conservatives, against Brexit, against Israel, against anything that is about Western values. Robbie Gibb will also be joining. He's a non-executive member of the BBC board. He's a Conservative. He's one of the few Conservatives left. They're trying to get rid of him. They're trying to push him out. And all this has been exposed. So while we wait for the chairman of the BBC, Samir Shah, to join, we still have Michael Prescott speaking. We will get some reaction live from you guys as well. Someone says Samir Shah. Hang on, did I read that right? There's some... Hang on. Yes, someone said in the live chat, Ellen says, Samir Shah, not Sammy. No, it's not a girl. Samir. S-A-M-I-R. A very Anglo-Saxon name. Anyway, let's quickly go to the BBC, to the House of Commons, and see what Michael Prescott is saying, his final remarks. And then Samir Shah will come. Hang on. Yeah. Who needs a BBC when you have 2C TV Plus? Join. Wait, are people saying no audio? No audio. Why is everything falling apart against it? There we go, it's back.
An awful lot of time has passed between January and November. So there still were a lot of people had a blind spot. So after this thing had been identified, I don't mean a literal blind spot, I didn't spot the splice. I don't think anybody spotted the splice. But having been brought to people's attention, a lot of people apparently overlooked it. Until, as Dr. Shah says, having had 500 complaints after your memo, there's been a period of reflection.
As I say, so I keep using this term blind spot. You can use the terminology you want. You know, they had a lack of sensitivity. They just had a different view about the video splice.
And I wonder if I might just finally ask both of you, if you would agree that actually it's people who would like to see the demise of the BBC. They are the
sound back, guys.
No.
Let me know.
Just let me finish my sentence, if you will.
Sorry, beg your
so
pardon.
it is people who would wish to see the demise of the BBC. They are the ones who ought to downplay this incident.
There's a comment.
People who love the BBC and think the BBC has a more important role than ever
plus come with audio.
in the information meltdown and mosh pit and misinformation, disinformation. They are the ones who will say that when an incident like this comes along, it must be taken with the absolute utmost seriousness.
Yeah, that sounds a very sensible point to me. I mean, people who love and support the BBC, we want the BBC to be at its best, and that's what this whole thing's been about.
Obviously, issues of trust are foundational to the BBC. It is very important that they take inaccuracies extremely seriously. I would say, I mean, to echo Samir Shah, it was regrettable that this wasn't recognised at the time, and it was too late to, even though Panorama was alerted to this, I think it was too late by the BBC to actually take action on it. But I would point you to the fact in the committee at the time, it was a 20-page report, and the debate was really about a much broader, comprehensive view about US election coverage. It wasn't to try and micromanage a particular programme edit. And individual issues were typically dealt with by the editorial complaints unit if there was an inaccuracy.
They hate Trump.
I'm asking her about a principle. So I was asking about the splice, that is correct, but you could apply the same question to a number of other things in the memo. My question was really,
this is going to get
isn't
juicy.
it the case that for all the 99 point something % of output, which is very high quality and unquestionable, isn't it the case that if you really, really care about the future of the BBC, you really, really have to care about the 0 point something % that goes wrong, take it absolutely as seriously as it warrants?
I agree with you. I think it is important, but I personally think that the BBC did take issues of impartiality and accuracy incredibly seriously. It's the reason that they're one of the most trusted news brands in the world.
What? Is she drunk?
Meltdown mosh pit.
Caroline.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Prescott, I happen to agree that it's a catalogue of interesting circumstances that this documentary aired through such a large editorial process.
The anti-Trump
one. The question that I want to know the answer to is, prior to it airing, did this documentary deviate from the standard editorial or auditing processes in any way?
Advertising subscription.
The short answer to that is I don't know, and that's exactly the kind of thing I was hoping that the BBC would look into.
Who would know?
Who would? Well, I guess that your best witness will be the next one. The BBC chairman may know about that.
Samir Shah.
I only know what I saw on the screen, and then what David Grossman reported upon.
Thank you. I've just realised you didn't quite answer my last question. Do you agree that Donald Trump's reputation has been tarnished by this documentary?
It's the principle that matters. Oh, it's gone again. Hang on. What's going on with the audio?
Impartiality.
There we go, it's back.
There was obviously a BBC response to it as well, which was also significant. They did engage with each of the details of the David Grossman report. I don't think Michael's account is a personal account rather than a comprehensive review of everything that was covered in the committee.
You describe it as biased?
It keeps going off. And we're going to fix this. Hang on. Stay with me. We're going to do it differently.
It was meant.
Hang on.
I think Caroline's remarks may well be fair because I'm very open about this. I think I even say it in the memo. It was meant to be, an edited take on things. It was a primer for the board hoping to get some action. And they could then go away, as I think I urged them to do in the memo, to go and look at the full Grossman report. So I don't think I'd ever claim it was fully comprehensive. It was edited highlights intended to get action.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to that question, Caroline?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, did you want to come in on this one?
Just on that, Caroline, sorry again. You said that it doesn't provide a comprehensive review of the Grossman report. Do you think it gives an accurate sense of the Grossman report?
I As I say, I
Someone
will
said,
repeat what I've
Maya
just said. I
turns
think
off the comments, audio to get the
Michael's
comments.
view was not designed to be a comprehensive review of everything in the David Grossman report. I think when you read the David Grossman report in full, it's a broader reflection of the debate that the committee had
It's fixed
about
now, don't worry.
issues and anticipating issues in terms of both existing coverage, was there something we should be looking at more closely, and are there actions that the BBC should be taking. My interpretation, my personal interpretation, was that the BBC engaged with this, the executive team responded, actions were taken. It was going to be an ongoing issue. This is a live, Donald Trump defines the news waves at the moment. It was an important issue to actually think ahead about how do we cover Donald Trump appropriately. So my takeaways were very much focused on that broader representative view. David Grossman's reports were not supposed to be comprehensive. They were quick takes, ad hoc research to help fuel a conversation in the committee, rather than the thematic reviews, which are much bigger picture.
Yeah, James is right in the
lots
comments.
of interviews, comprehensive research, and looking at a much broader range of programmes.
Just to be clear, so the Grossman reports were the only ones that were asked for by the committee on this particular topic. There were no others.
No, on this case, no.
And Michael, just quickly, Dr. Shah said that your memos are, and I'm quoting, a partial description of the evidence that the EGSC received. Is it fair to describe your memo as partial?
My memo is partial. I don't really think so. As I say, it was edited highlights intended to get action. So whether you want to call it partial or not, it was certainly impartial. Well, there was nothing that would mislead the audience in it. I think it was a reasonable edit of all the areas concerned that arose out of the Grossman reports. In that sense, you could, I suppose it'd be fair on the American one, for example, say it's unbalanced, because I didn't mention where David Grossman praised the coverage. I only mentioned where there were problems. But I don't mean to sound arrogant. I don't really apologise for that. I mean, it was 19 pages as it was, for one thing. And if you do read the full Grossman report, I don't know whether you're getting hold of it or not, into the American election coverage, see what you make of it. But my plea, you see, is fine, wherever the BBC earns a gold star, that's great. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't take the problem seriously. So I think the first thing there was they broke their own guidelines on how to use opinion polls. Well, what was done about that after? How did that problem occur? And what's being done about that to prevent an accidental reoccurrence? Answer, we do not know.
I think would you agree though that they have acknowledged that was an issue? I'm just looking at a quote saying the one significant exception to our usually excellent record of reporting polling. So that particular problem with that particular poll was acknowledged. Yeah,
but this goes to my one remaining worry. But I should have said, by the way, I really welcome the BBC chairman's letter to you, where he says he's going to go through everything in my memo point by point, which is in a way all I wanted.
Nothing will happen.
The one worry I still have is, will the BBC do that, treating every issue there as if it is a systemic problem until they can prove that it's not? So the issue there about the opinion polling, they say they've responded to it and acknowledged it. Okay, but were there systems that went wrong? Was it if it was one single human error on one night? Fine, but if not, there's a bigger problem. What's gone wrong here? They need to get under the bonnet and start fiddling around with the spanner.
By the way, but BBC chair was supposed to be here 15 minutes ago. It's not there yet.
Fix those systemic problems.
Well, for starters, whoever takes the place of Caroline and myself on the Standards Committee, hopefully they can persuade them that they've been doing a more thorough job. And if there was to be wider scrutiny, I mean, it's for BBC as an institution to figure that out. And of course, you as the Select Committee have an oversight role.
Thank you very much.
Where is the chairman?
Thank you, Chair.
Finish it.
Michael, you mentioned sort of primer for the board. A comment you just made earlier in terms of sort of like your communication, and you started off earlier when you said that you was a strong supporter in your formative years.
Not you was. You were. Speak English.
And I think that many people in this room, myself included, sort of BBC sort of very important in terms of our sort of education as well.
Yeah.
So, did you foresee the damage your memo would cause?
Absolutely not, because remember.
Sorry, but just
beg your pardon.
No. I paused. That's why you came in. My apologies. But what I would say to you is, did you not see an opportunity, or did you not see a scenario where that memo would be wider circulated?
No, it went. As I say, it went to 14 members of the BBC board, and then senior people at Ofcom, DCMS, who. As I said, BBC is independent, but they have some role in terms of dialogue with the BBC. No. And also, I look back, what was I to do? I could have done nothing, but you can hopefully tell from the memo the level of my concern, and I wanted someone somewhere to start doing something.
No, I understand that, but it's obviously been, in some cases you can argue it's possibly being weaponised, and you spoke about people on the political spectrums sort of grasping that and trying to sort of damage the BBC, so to speak. So I'm just surprised you're surprised we've got to this point.
Well, on the weaponised thing, this is a personal view, but whether people at the BBC think this stuff's been weaponised or not, surely that's a secondary issue. There are very specific things that have been going wrong, detailed in the Grossman reports, detailed in my memo. Now the BBC, they say they're going to look at them one by one. Hopefully they'll treat them as systemic problems, in which case the BBC will end up stronger, and I want it stronger so it can conquer the globe. So this, where you're coming from, which is, surely you realise there was a risk of damage. Even as I sit here now, my hope and my genuine belief is the BBC is going to end up stronger because of all this stuff. And it'd be great. They can reach billions on this planet with their news and current affairs, given that we're in the era of fake news, if they get this stuff right.
Caroline, what's your view about what I asked Michael in terms of how this has impacted the organisation?
It's obviously been an extremely challenging time for the BBC. It's on the spotlight on issues of impartiality, which in my view the BBC was actively engaging with on a regular basis. As I point out, the fact that the committee was extremely robust, discussions were had, research was commissioned on a regular basis, and it was challenging research. I think that's a really healthy organisation and a very healthy debate.
Thank you. There was a term about sort of systemic and processes, about possibly the BBC not listening, the editorial team not listening, and you gave some examples. And one of the examples was about the insurance, about that sort of misrepresentation and that ethnic minority sort of penalty.
Yeah.
With regards to that sort of insurance story, the BBC sort of acknowledged it was wrong and published a correction in 2024-25 in their annual report, and it's that an example of the EGSC working as intended.
Well, there's a complaints process, as you know, that occurs quite separately from the Standards Committee. Any member of the public can complain, and it's dealt with by certain machinery. The Standards Committee keeps an eye on that and see what they think of it. But this particular story you mentioned to, and the BBC apology, again, sorry for being a broken record, but again, this comes back to whether a problem is systemic or not. How did they get that so wrong? There were multiple levels of failure there, and I know of nowhere, it certainly didn't come before the Standards Committee, that the BBC treated it as such and looked into every stage of failure and what they could learn from what went wrong.
Okay. So given the resolution of the insurance story, why did you not sort of mention that or reiterate it in your memo?
What, the insurance story?
Yeah.
It is in my memo, yeah.
What the BBC, the reiterate, so why did you not sort of mention that the BBC had dealt with it?
Because the point I was trying to make to the board is the same one I'm trying to make to you, and I think I'd run through the possible levels of editorial failure, who commissioned it, what did the programme editors make of this before it went out, where was the professional scepticism over this claim. So I was trying to make the point to the board, I think the BBC should look at that, among many others, as if it's a systemic problem, and I wanted them to support me in that notion.
Caroline, can you give me an example where the EGSE sort of considered the subject that concerned you and reached a consensus that you were satisfied with?
Sorry, just to clarify that I wasn't satisfied
That
with.
you were satisfied with?
I think on the insurance, I'm just picking up that one straight away. Action was taken. There was a debate at the board. It was embarrassing for the team in terms of their understanding of data journalism. There were further actions taken about actually doing more training within the BBC about how to understand probability and really proper economics understanding across some of the team. There were new people put in terms of the data science team. So I think, in my view, that counts as action and significant action from the EGSC. If it hadn't come up in the EGSC, it probably would have come up via the editorial complaints unit if there had been concerns, which obviously is another part. It's another part of our monitoring. It's not just this committee, but the editorial complaints unit also has a significant role in looking in issues of inaccuracy. I think another example I can bring up is we looked at the role of BBC Verify and the sort of issues of misinformation at the BBC, and are there issues in terms of complaints coming in that actually show that we should be concerned about whether reporters were falling for fake news. In my view, I think we should be spending a lot of time on those issues. And going forward, if I had one piece of advice for Chris Hall, it's actually that you have longer, deeper dives into some of these, really big existential issues for the BBC's journalism. And it really matters to get that right. So we can, in particularly in an era when trust is incredibly important, and when the internet is becoming a source of massive scale misinformation. So in my view, I think the BBC engaged that on the last 3 years. We did have conversations about that. I like to see the BBC having even more focus on that going forwards, and a wider frame of views and more deeper dives on issues like that.
Okay, thank you. Michael, last question. Any other examples where you feel that...
The committee operated by consensus? In a funny way, in my mind, it probably operated by consensus on almost everything, the exception being, and of course it's the glaring, that's why we're all here, the exception being management's response to some of the David Grossman's more critical findings, where there wasn't a consensus. The management went one way, there were some members of the committee remained unhappy with it, and you can clearly see I remained unhappy with it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fire. Sorry, just very, very quickly. So given that there was an investigation into the insurance piece, given that an action was taken, given that the BBC acknowledged there was an issue, I'm wondering how much is that systemic or just a cock-up, rather than conspiracy versus cock-up? Is it just there were mistakes was made, the BBC investigated, it was corrected, and then if it had because action was taken, why did you feel the need to put it into your memo?
Oh, because right. So to me, sort of journalistic error might be I misspell someone's name or I get the date wrong, an error. And of course, by the way, errors occur. I really don't want to come across someone who thinks otherwise or is intolerant of the occasional human failure. But this report was way more than that, okay? So the BBC launched this service called Verify, clues in the name. It's supposed to be even better than your ordinary BBC. It'll check everything out, hard data. And to launch Verify, one of the things that happened was that this report was emblazoned across the BBC Breakfast, lunchtime news, 6 o'clock news, all the bulletins. This was a big deal at the BBC. We've got a shocking new exclusive for the world. And what went wrong cannot have been surely one person's error. How did they have this notion to study this idea that insurance companies would be charging ethnic minority people more? Who compiled the report? Who checked it? Who edited it? Which output editor said it was okay? Of all the people across the BBC who heard that report, was there no professional scepticism? Geez, we'd better have another look at that. This was multiple levels of failure. And that's why I put it in the memo.
Caroline's just outlined that better training has been put in place for data analysis, because anyone can look at a spreadsheet and come up with an answer for anything. So she's outlined the actions that were taken off the back of that, a clear failure. Where that has happened, is that not the BBC behaving in the way it should behave?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question, because this is you zeroed right in on an area of potential continuing disagreement between me and the BBC. So you see, you probably get more of this from the chairman. So yeah, on that one they organised some retraining. They had a look into their use of statistics. To me, now, feel free to disagree with me. To me, just not enough. This was a horrendous and embarrassing error, one, by the way, that could have damaged community relations in this country. I mean, if you're a black teenager sitting at home all day listening to that stuff, how would it make you feel? And it was all untrue. So I think they should have had what you might call a full-on inquest. And I'm not clear they ever did.
Yeah, it was planned.
Okay. Can I just quickly talk to you about BBC Arabic? It comes in for some quite heavy criticism in your memo. We know the BBC Arabic, on average, are having to apologise for around about 2 articles a week at the moment. But in answer to our letter, the BBC, the chairman, said that they are determined to attempt to tackle the underlying problems identified by both the EGSE and Mr. Prescott. Are those steps sufficient, Michael?
Well, in my view, it depends what he means by that, but I take him to be in good faith, and I'm delighted by that promise. I alluded in the memo to how, vis-a-vis BBC Arabic, I think I put a phrase in, there have been some changes of personnel, a measure in which the Director General seems to place great faith. Because, yet again, you see, my view is just switching out an editor or two is not enough. When you've got such shocking catalogue of seeming errors, there must be more going wrong than just the editor on that day wasn't quite up to the job.
BBC Arabic is disgusting.
Yeah, thanks. So we've established that the two of you, it was advertised. The David Grossman role was internal.
Well, I think you need to check. I think it was, but I'm really not sure about the Grossman one. Probably best to ask the
It just seems, the memo was very reliant on that one individual. I think you said to Jeff you didn't entertain any other evidence. I mean, surely, isn't it sort of incumbent on you to take evidence from a range of different sources? So throughout your time, there was also the Gaza Doctors Under Attack documentary that a lot of staff were exercised about at the all-staff meeting. There were various other things that happened. The NUJ and BEC2 have written to us. There's 21,000 members of BBC staff. Right. Hundreds of them attend the all-staff meetings. Why was none of their evidence in your memo? Why is it just all slanted to one individual and one political point?
Well, I suppose you can't boil the ocean, for one thing. And my memo was what it was presented as being, which was a summary of internal reports that had come before the Standards Committee and not been acted upon fully enough.
Okay. I mean, I just wondered also what your relationship is with these gentlemen, with Robbie Gibb. The FT says that you're a friend of his. I don't know, maybe you can clear that up for us. And with David Grossman.
So David Grossman, I only know through him being appointed this role and the Standards Committee. Robbie Gibb, I've known for a number of years. I first met him, I think, when I was working briefly for the political staff of the Daily Mirror, and he worked for BBC Westminster. So, yes, I do know Robbie Gibb, but you've got to appreciate 14, 15 years working as a political correspondent here. I think it's probably not an exaggeration to say I got to know hundreds of people on a cross-party basis. Even today, I've got dozens and dozens of friends from that period of my life, and I've got as many Labour Party friends, Lib Dem friends, as Conservative friends. But yes, I do know Robbie.
And would you call him a friend? Because there's all these rumours swirling around.
Yes, I think that's a fair description, yeah.
It's just stupid.
And would you be prepared to publish communications between the two of you in the sort of lead up to the appointment and since the memo?
To the EGSE?
To the committee, to us.
Sorry,
would you be prepared
to publish what?
Communications that you had in the run-up to getting the job, maybe to squash some rumours that are out there. And since the memo was published, which mysteriously found its way into the Telegraph, nobody quite knows how.
What?
Well, on the first of your things, the editor getting the job on the Standards Committee, that was openly advertised, and it was an open competitive process, so I'm not sure quite what it is.
Yeah, no, the question was, would you publish communications that you had, emails?
Well, that's quite a precedent you're asking me to set. What I'm happy to do is say to you that I've had, for example, I haven't seen, my last meeting of the Standards Committee was in June. I haven't seen him since then. I think I've had one conversation with him since then. That's it.
Labour MPs are disgusting. Look at her. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Mr. Prescott, can you understand why somebody might find it suspicious that somebody who is described as a friend might have a role in that individual's appointment?
Yeah, look, I think that's a fair enough question, but
if that's a fair enough question, then will you submit the documentation that my...
Well, like I said, it's quite a precedent to set, but let me answer your question directly. So I applied for the Standards Committee position as described. There was then, you had to put in written submission, written thing, and then there was an interview. The interview panel was 4 people, one of whom was from HR. Now, you feel free to criticise me. I just took the point of view, well, if BBC, BBC does do that sort of thing well, if BBC HR are involved, I thought it was fine.
I'm not criticising you. I'm just suggesting that it's interesting that somebody you've described as a friend had a role in your appointment. You don't think that's unusual?
It's because Robbie Gibb is a Conservative, that's why.
If you operate in this country, in the sphere of politics, the media and so on, it's not that unusual to come across people you know. I mean, it happens all the time. So unusual, well, I don't know.
Can I ask, Michael, if even a memo warning about issues of impartiality has issues with selective quoting and perceptions of bias, is there any hope that anyone can ever be an effective and trusted arbiter of impartiality?
Well, the BBC gets as close as any organisation in the world ever has, and I think it is achievable so long as you're open, transparent, honest, and here, this is in a sense what this session's about, isn't it? And you're willing to take it on the chin when you get it wrong and look into what's gone wrong thoroughly and put in a full programme of reform if needed. So I think it's achievable enough. And by the way, the BBC is the best positioned organisation in the world to do that, even with everything we're discussing, in my view.
That brings us to an end. Can I thank you so much for appearing in front of us this afternoon?
We're now waiting for Samir Shah.
Is there anything that either of you would like to conclude with before we end today?
The chair's coming.
I don't think so, but thank you so much. I'd just say a big thank you, because obviously this has been all over the news for whatever it is, 3 weeks now. I've deliberately avoided the media for numerous reasons, but not least because I have great respect for Parliament, and also a session like this, you can go through things so much more thoroughly than one media interview. So I'm really appreciative.
We're very grateful for both of you for coming in to see us this afternoon and for answering all our very many questions. We're now going to briefly suspend the meeting to allow the next panel to come in. Thank you very much. Order, order.
So the BBC chair will be coming in next. So just to give you a summary of the chaos you just saw from the left-wing MPs. Oh my God. So Michael Prescott is there. Obviously, he's got his experience with the BBC, but he's recently written a report that exposed the systemic problems in the BBC. He's sitting there. The next person is going to be the chairman of the BBC, the man he's criticised. And the left-wing MPs, instead of holding the BBC to account, are attacking the man who's written a report about the BBC. And one of the lines of attack was essentially that you happen to be friends with Robbie Gibb. Robbie Gibb, who is Michael Prescott's friend, Robbie Gibb is also my friend. Robbie Gibb is a member of the BBC board. He only basically got appointed as a board member under the Conservative government. He was appointed. He is Conservative. He's right-wing. He's very right-wing. But it has nothing to do with Michael Prescott's appointment, because there was an official process for Michael Prescott to be appointed to then write a report against the BBC. Michael Prescott exposed the BBC. Now they're saying, Michael, you're friends with Robbie Gibb. Clearly, Robbie Gibb has infiltrated the BBC with the other right-wingers. So the left-wing MPs are defending the BBC, creating a new conspiracy theory that right-wingers who've infiltrated BBC have hired Michael Prescott to write a report. And then one of the left-wing MPs was demanding to see communication, WhatsApp messages and text messages between Michael Prescott and Robbie Gibb, who's a member of the board, to see, basically, she was implying that you only got the job to write that report against the BBC because you're friends with Robbie Gibb. Your job in Parliament today on this political trial is to hold the BBC to account. What on earth are you doing? Michael Prescott was simply there to give his statement and his testimony so you could use it as evidence against the BBC, to scrutinise the BBC, not No, it's like you have whistleblowers exposing the corruption of the establishment, and MPs are attacking the whistleblowers. None of it makes any sense. So now, while that's happening, I'm going to find out exactly when Samir Shah, the BBC chairman, is going to join. They'll claim human error, but this was malicious and willful negligence. Their mistakes were deliberate and should be held accountable for that. Yeah, exactly. They keep using the words error. It's not error when it was an agenda. It was planned. You can't boil the ocean. Oh yes, that's I think what Prescott said, or Caroline. Has anyone told Greta Thunberg and just stop oil this? You can't boil the ocean. And Ivan says, I thought the BBC was under scrutiny, not Prescott. I know. That's what I thought. But Labour MPs are too busy attacking anybody who's against the BBC. They're going to be very soft, the left-wing MPs, with Samir Shah. As if it's a singular incident. It's the latest in a long line of abuses. Panorama was like a decade ago. Same S. And Debbie says, I am a 2C TV member, but when I go on the TV Plus page, it asks me to subscribe. And I can't watch the live shows and comment what's happening. I don't know how to contact you. So you can always contact us, team@2c.tv, but I can explain here. So 2C TV is the YouTube channel, which is here. You can watch the live shows, and you just left a comment, you could do it here. 2C TV Plus, that's our streaming service, and you can become a member by only going directly on 2c.tv, which is right here underneath my face somewhere. Yeah, there we go. And that you get access to our documentaries, our chat forum, our interviews, podcasts, and everything else. Obviously, the live shows is on YouTube right here. You can see this. Obviously, you can also access it on the app. But yeah, if you join as a member of 2CV Plus, you get full access to everything else, and you can join for only £1 today, because we have a 7-day trial. Which you can obviously try to have a look at the platform and see if you like it, and of course download the 2C TV app. Now there is a PC saying end the license fee now. That should be the priority, of course, but there doesn't seem to be any hope so far. Now we're waiting for the update to see when Samir Shah is joining. I'll keep you guys posted, because I think he's slightly delayed. The chairman of the BBC this was supposed to be happening 40 minutes ago, almost 40 minutes ago, but technically 37 minutes ago. He is extremely late, so that's lovely. And MPs are always late because they always ask stupid questions towards the end. They could have finished that session about 40 minutes ago, so he's late, and we don't know what's going on. So we'll find out, and we will keep you guys posted on any development from the chairman of the BBC, and thank you again for all the support. We're going to be live throughout the day because there's going to be a lot of updates from all around the world. I hope you enjoyed the left-wing MPs not holding the BBC to account, and instead attacking anybody who was criticizing the BBC. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.